Fred Small is a singer, songwriter, activist, and Unitarian Universalist minister. He originally trained as a lawyer, but he left his job to pursue a career in music, which is where I met him back in the day. In 1983, he wrote his now classic song, Everything Possible, which I've based our service on this morning, as you have likely figured out. It was originally recorded and made famous by the iconic gay male a cappella group, the Flirtations. Since that time, the song has traveled around the world and even into our teal hymnal. A little bit about the story of the song before I sing the song for you. 40 years ago, when he was a traveling folk singer, he went to visit his musician friend Janet Peterson. Janet was a lesbian, as it explains in the back of the book. Janet was sad as she told Fred about her son, Aaron. She had always taught Aaron that boys could be gentle and kind. But many of his school friends thought they had to be tough and strong and not show their feelings. Aaron didn't know how to fit in. She asked Fred if he would write a song to show Aaron that it was okay to be different, that he could choose how to act and how to live his life. Sitting on a bus the next day, something musicians did a lot of back in that day, Fred began to write the song, Everything Possible. It became a big success, and it is still sung a lot today by people who live their lives in their own way and love whoever they want to love. Strong and bold or quiet and kind, every child is unique and their future filled with possibilities. Everything Possible celebrates love and friendship, gently encouraging children to dream their own dream and choose their own path, wherever it might take them. And it speaks to those of us of all ages who need to be who we are, even in a society and a culture who may not value all the varieties of being. The only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're gone. Well, the love you leave behind when you're gone. We here have chosen to center love and to share our blessings with the world. The former president of Starr King School for the Ministry, Rebecca Parker, wrote this much quoted piece, Choose to bless the world. And boy, does the world need it, doesn't it? Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, and welcome the stranger. Any of these can draw down the prison door, break bread, abandon the poor. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. Together, there is another possibility waiting, she writes. I love this piece that sends us outward to address all the needs of the world, embracing the possibilities, but also to experience all its beauty and complexity in my mind. Those flowers that we're all seeing blooming as we drive around, or if we can go for a walk. The blue skies, even the clouds and even the rain. We love all of that. But inherent in that, it seems to me, is how we look inward and find our own gifts and know those gifts in our bones, as Fred Small says. Know that everything is possible. Or letting our lives speak, which is what I talked about the last time I was here with you. And I'm very happy to be back again. You can dream all the day and never reach the end of everything possible for you, especially if you embrace the possibilities, which, as you've heard, is our theme for the month and today. Fred and I were both in the music business in the Boston area back in the 80s and 90s. He was and is a social justice songwriter, an activist, and especially around ecological issues, what we now call climate justice, but all forms of justice. It was that call that sent him from environmental lawyering and music to ordained ministry, once he understood better some of his own gifts. And later he used his gifts in the service of parish ministry for a number of years, first in Littleton, Massachusetts, and then at First Parish in Cambridge, one of the congregations that was studied, if you read this book, Mistakes and Miracles, Congregations on the Road to Multiculturalism. He worked hard in that area. Now he is retired from parish ministry and serves as a community minister, as Minister for Climate Justice at the Arlington Street Church in Boston. In those long ago days, I was performing with my band TVS, which, by the way, I'm still performing with when I go back to New England, and doing a lot of studio recording work with them and by myself. So it was that I sang back then with Fred on the song that he wrote, Walk on the Supply Side, which appeared on an album in 1984 called Reaganomic Blues. He has a sense of humor, too. This was a collection of songs from a variety of performers representing the unemployed, homeless, and working people alike, protesting the banks and corporations using their profiles to speculate and buy each other up while closing factories across the country. The liner notes to this old album also state, and I quote, in the 80s, a rerun of the 30s was in the making. More people are unemployed than at any time since the Depression, end quote. Sounding a little familiar to me. Fred set his words to the melody of that song to one written by Lou Reed, that those of you of a certain age may know as Walk on the Wild Side. Remember, do 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 do. Anyway, Fred and I became friendly after that recording session. Our paths kept crossing from time to time in the music business. By that time, I had joined a UU church and become their youth director, a position I held for 8 years before I started an elder chorus. And Fred was playing at all those UU coffee houses that we have back east, among other places. So what a surprise when eventually Fred went to Harvard Divinity School and I went to Andover Newton Theological School, and we were both ordained as UU ministers. Who knew that was possible? We certainly didn't. But that was what our gifts were calling us to do, and letting our lights shine in new ways, embracing what was possible for us. Bill McKibben has cited Fred Small as one of the key figures in the religious environmental surge. Who knew there was a religious environmental surge? But I'm glad to know that, and that he's part of it. So these days, he is an affirmed community minister like Reverend Betty is here, and the Minister of Climate Justice, as I said, at Arlington Street Church. And what am I doing? I'm filling pulpits hither and yon. Today we're here with you, sometimes singing Fred's songs, embracing my possibilities in my version of retirement. Strong and bold and quiet or kind, every child is unique and their future filled with possibilities. This song celebrates love and friendship, gently encouraging children to dream their own dream, to choose their own path, wherever it might take them. And it speaks to those of us of all ages who need to be who we are, even in a society and culture who may not value all the varieties of being, especially now. A favorite book of mine, also from long ago, was Norman Juster's The Phantom Toll Booth, which he wrote in 1961. I was still growing up then, so I'm not that old. But maybe you remember it. I used to read it to my son Nigel when he was little, and we had a recording of it with the actress Pat Carroll reading it on an audio cassette. Remember those? I still have that one, and it's been re-recorded. But I am still hearing her say in my head, "We're in the doldrums, the doldrums." Who hasn't been in the doldrums on the road to doing the impossible? And who hasn't been in the doldrums since the last election? So a little bit, if you don't remember, the Phantom Toll Booth is about a boy named Milo who didn't see much point to a lot of the things he learned in school. Like, and I quote, subtracting turnips from turnips, or knowing where Ethiopia is, or how to spell February. And because he hardly ever looked around him, well, rushing from here to there, or from there back to here, he often thought, there's nothing for me to do, hardly anything worth seeing, end quote. I won't go into the story of how he receives a gift of an enormous toll booth that allowed him to travel to such places as Expectations, the Doldrums, and Dictionopolis. But for our purposes this morning, I have us consider this quote from the book. So many things are possible just as long as you don't know they are impossible. So many things are possible just as long as you don't know they are impossible. I don't know about Fred, but I know if anyone had told me in my teens or my 20s or even my 30s that I would one day go to seminary and be ordained to ministry, I would have said, that's impossible. By my 40s, I had been working with UU youth for 8 years, and I had started the elder chorus I mentioned, both of which I thought of as ministry. Well, what did that mean? But going to seminary was impossible. I could name obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. It's too much work. I can't afford it. I'm too old. I was in my 40s, so I don't know what I would think now. I could go on, and I did go on. For about 10 years, I went through this litany of impossible questions to myself. And finally, I dipped my foot into seminary, and this June, it'll be my 24th anniversary of my ordination, so I did finally get through it all. And I finally remembered that when I was in elementary school, I used to play minister, something I never considered because it seemed impossible at the first thought. Girls can't be ministers, at least not in my experience, in my Episcopal upbringing. It was so impossible that it took me 40 years to remember that I had had that dream. Perhaps I finally got that quote by George Eliot. It is never too late to be what you might have been. How about you? It's never too late to be what you might have been. How about you? What seems impossible to you that you are naming every single obstacle that you can dream up? What if instead you focused on embracing possibility? What might make possibility emerge for you? Looking back, what did you play at being and doing when you were young? Think about something that made you get lost in time. What quote sums up possibility for you? How about this one from Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass? Just ask Alice. I can't believe that, said Alice. Can't you? Said the Queen said in a pitying tone. Try again. Draw a long breath. Shut your eyes. Alice laughed. There's no use trying, she said. One can't believe impossible things. I dare say you haven't had much practice, said the Queen. When I was your age, I always did it for a half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. So let's take a moment right now, each of us, those here in the sanctuary and those far away in cyberland, to think back to our younger days before we knew that this or that was impossible, that we weren't good enough or smart enough or rich enough to do whatever. Let's just take a couple of deep breaths, breathing in and out, and bring an image to your mind. You can close your eyes if you want, and see yourself at an age when you were engrossed in an activity, without judgment creeping in to shut you down. Perhaps you were drawing, or walking in nature. Perhaps you were singing, or reading a book. Perhaps you were writing poetry or short stories. Whatever it is that comes to mind, befriend that younger version of yourself. Think about the possibilities of what you are engrossed in this vision. Or maybe you've discovered that what you loved then has morphed into what you're doing now. Perhaps it's pointing you to a new way to let your life shine. Send love. Send love to that younger person. And now gently bring yourself back into the space and time, and you might want to spend some time this week thinking about what, if anything, came up for you, or you might want to do the practice at home. Do you hear voices in your head saying that you can be anybody you want to be? Can you feel a firm foundation under you, even if you didn't have the kind of parent that would sing Fred's small song? How can you feel that strength to know that you are loved when you are alone and when you gather friends around? You can be anybody you want to be, even now, even at your age, my age. You can understand limitations, yes, and boundaries, but you can still let your light shine. We can swing our doors open wide, even as we've just begun to open it, and let the light of this community not stay between these walls or in cyberspace, but let it shine outside our walls to our very divided world that needs that love, that needs that compassion, that needs our care. It will make a difference. We can use our gifts to become what we want to be. We can use our gifts to bless this world. I believe in possibility. There's much more I could say about this, but I believe that congregations are the place that we can shine and we can bring our light out into the world. Congregations like your congregation and all the congregations I visit as I shine my light in a new way in retirement. The only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you left behind when you're gone. Blessed be Ashe and Amen.